The Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
I'd like to move on and introduce Nancy Miller Gomez, who is the author of Inconsolable Objects, YesYes Books, winner of the 2025 Paterson Prize, and Punishment, Rattle Chapbook Series. An Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellow, her work has appeared in Best American Poetry, Best New Poets, Prairie Schooner, TriQuarterly, the Alaska Quarterly Review, the Adroit Journal, LitHub, Shenandoah, New Ohio Review, Rattle, Massachusetts Review, River Styx, Verse Daily, the Hopkins Review, and elsewhere. She received a special mention in the 2023 Pushcart Prize Anthology and was awarded a fellowship from the Jentel Foundation. Gomez co-founded an organization that provides writing workshops to incarcerated women and men and has taught poetry in Salinas Valley State Prison, the Santa Cruz County Jails, the Juvenile Hall, and as part of Cornell University's prison education program. She earned a BA from the University of California, San Diego, JD from the University of San Diego, a MFA in writing from Pacific University, and has worked as an attorney and a TV producer. Originally from Kansas, she now lives with her family in Northern California. As the Poet Laureate of Santa Cruz, she is working with the County Office of Education to provide poetry workshops to youth throughout the county. Welcome, Nancy Miller Gomez. Thank you.
I'll try to keep my reading shorter than that bio. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for having us here. And it's an honor and a pleasure. And I'm delighted to be reading with my fellow poets. Joan, that was such a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous reading. And I also prefer my angels banged up and salty. So that was really nice. I'm going to be reading primarily from this book, Inconsolable Objects, and then probably closing with a poem that is one of the few poems I've written since this book came out, because I too published a book and then kind of fell into a fallow period. And also have been doing a lot of other poet laureate related teaching projects. And so not writing quite as much, but I hope to get back to it. Can everybody hear me okay? Volume? All right, there we go. Snapshot. I was a hand grenade of a girl, vacuum packed into a dress that bound my body like a bandage, staunching a wound. My arms were cinched in tourniquets of tulle, my throat choked in a rage of lace. I'd hacked my hair into chaos, kept it ragged and short, kept my fists clenched in the fuselage of my lap. My eyes, 2 foxholes, no light escaped. My lips stretched across my face like a tripwire. The man with the camera said, "You can do better. Give me a smile." I set my mouth into the look I've kept all these years. That's still me in the photo, waiting to pull the pin. Tilt-a-whirl. It was a hot day in Paola, Kansas. The rides were banging around empty as we moved through the carnival music and catcalls. At the Tilt-a-whirl, we were the only ones. My big sister chose our carriage carefully, walking a full circle until she stopped. The ride operator didn't take his eyes off her. Long, dark hair and amber eyes ringed like the golden interior of a newly felled pine. She didn't seem to notice him lingering as he checked the lap bar, and my sister asked, in her sweetest, most innocent, or maybe not so innocent voice, Can we have a long ride, please, mister? When he sat back down at the joystick, he made a show of lighting his smoke while the cage of his face settled into a smile I would one day learn to recognize. And those dizzying red teacups began to spin my sister and me into woozy amusement. We forgot the man, the heat, our thighs sticking to the vinyl seats, our bodies glued together in a centrifugal blur of happiness beneath a red metal canopy as we picked up speed and started to laugh, our heads thrown back, mouths open, the fabric of my sister's shirt clinging to the swinging globes of her breasts as we went faster and faster, though by then we had begun to scream, "Stop, please, stop," until our voices grew hoarse beneath the clattering pivots and dips, the air filling with diesel and cigarettes, and the man at the control stick waiting for us to spin toward him again. And each time he cocked his hand as if sighting prey down the barrel of a gun. So I grew up in Kansas, and because this was my first full-length collection, many of the poems are those obligatory childhood poems you have to get out in your first collection. Coach Whip. It was the winter the snake went missing. We searched through laundry hampers, peered into toilets, stepped everywhere carefully. No one slept well. On the eve of the 8th day, my mother turned on the garbage disposal and heard the gargle of blades grinding through bones and flesh. Later, she fished out the mangled creature with an oven mitt and laid it down outside on a bed of snow-capped compost. All that year, I dreamt of knives sleeping beneath me. Mornings, I woke to the memory of the beautiful black coils, the diamond-braided skin in ribbons. And because I was a child plagued by imagination, I waited for them to rise up from the drain, silent as shadows. The kitchen brimming with generations of snakes draped over the chairs and light fixtures. A river of lacerated bodies slithering out of the sink, while the largest serpent slipped off, tasting the air with his tongue, sidewinding down the hall in search of my mother. So I actually shared this poem earlier in the workshop, so my apologies. Some of you are going to hear it twice. Another Kansas poem. Resurrection. When I was 5, my brother convinced me to perform mouth-to-mouth on a catfish floating belly up in the scum that gathered in the lake behind our house. He said I had the power to bring it back, though it was my choice. I followed his directions, leaned over the deck, pressed my lips against the stiff ridge of its mouth while keeping its bloated body submerged beneath the oily sheen, and began to breathe in and out as I opened and closed the bony folds of its gills. At first, my brother held my ankles to steady me so I wouldn't fall off the dock. I kept breathing in through my nose, sting of creosote and pond rot, and out through my mouth, a soft exhale of prayer. You already know I did not bring the fish back to life, though it wasn't for lack of trying. I kept breathing into that dark opening long after my brother said to quit, long after he got bored and wandered off, and the setting sun bathed the brackish water in gold. I kept breathing in and out long after the night cooled and the stars rose, and my mother found me asleep on the dock, her voice calling me back from that place where the fish turned its rapturous eyes away from the moon and dove back to its sanctuary of darkness. So I will move on from some of the Kansas poems, but this poem, How to Forget, we were talking a lot earlier about the fallibility of memories and how we reshape memories in order to help us get through our lives. Originally, this poem had an epigraph that was a quote from a New York Times article where some scientist was talking about how we can actually actively make choices to go in and reshape our memories in order to help us overcome certain things. And it's in some ways reminiscent of the idea behind Joan's beautiful poem about her sister, what if, as if, reimagining, reshaping. It's called How to Forget. I am lining my memories up against the wall. They are begging me for reprieve. Here is the night I found you on the floor, folded like laundry. Here are the bloody towels, the smell of ammonia and rotting fruit. Once I was a wife. Now I am a wilderness. I am the grove of aspens. All that's left of you are candle stubs and carpet stains. All your goodbyes have turned into horses. They are grazing peacefully. Your words are blades of grass. Our last argument, a pasture dotted with poppies. That night, I watched you wash your bruised hands in the sink. Now, I see 2 fish diving into a stream. I am remembering the last time we spoke. I've turned it into a holiday, marked it on the calendar with an asterisk. A day to eat cake, a day to enter the cellar and retrieve the special vintage with its sweet notes of smoke and honey. Lush on the tongue, easy to swallow. The golden-crowned sparrows have returned from their long summer singing of loss. 3 notes, one for the knife, one for the cut, one for all I have forgotten. Crescent moon. You died the year our youngest son turned 1. Eyes closed, mouth slack, hair splayed around your face like an electric fence, a rusty crown on an otherworldly prince. It was the final affront, an end to the prolonged fuck you of your short life, leaving all those promises you made eternally unfulfilled, and me with 2 children tethered to the unsteady buoy of my heart, all of us holding on for dear life, riding out the riptides of utility bills and rent and getting food on the table. I'm still emptying out the dumpster of our years together, old hypodermics and broken bottles, shoe boxes filled with notebooks and guitar picks. I'm still finding the landmines you left, like today, when our daughter turned her head and I saw the dimple that used to bloom in a crescent moon on the right side of your smile, and all that love came rushing back. I remember those years when you were still alive and always around to haunt us. We all fall down. Ashes coated my son's cheeks, his lashes, his hands still gripping the pressure-sealed bag that exploded when he opened it. I just wanted to see, he said. I wiped soot off his eyebrows, rubbed a smudge above his lip. It came out everywhere, he said. And we both began to laugh, gasps that grew into a keening and filled the room. Then we were silent. I helped my son sweep his dad off the chairs, the stairs, emptied the inside of his shoes and collar, but the gritty gray bits of bone and ash wouldn't fit back inside the plastic urn. Could it be? Even after death, love expands. We scooped up what was left and dropped it from the balcony like snow. How about a happy poem? Let's see if I can find one. It's funny how poets don't write a lot of happy poems. Why is that? Oh, wait, I think I skipped it. Oh. I thought I had a happy poem in here, but maybe I was wrong. Hold on. I know it's in here somewhere. One happy poem. I found one. It's called The Game. I love you, I say to the boy. He's 3. I love you more, he says back. But I love you most, I say, and wonder how love became a competition. I love you more than Halloween candy, I say. I love you more than sky, he shouts. I love you so much, I must dance around the house all night doing this, and I demonstrate the move which looks something like pitching a baseball with both hands while shaking my ass. He looks impressed, comes back with, I love you 50 bonks on the head, and slaps the back of his own noggin again and again to show me what this kind of love looks like. I love you the whole driveway and parking lot. I love you every pothole in New York City. I love you more than A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I love you more than purple, more than gold. I love you more than cat vomit and dog poop. I love you, all the dead people in the cemetery. I love you, eyeballs and bones and rotting skin, and he's looking around wildly for the right thing to say, his eyes scanning the floor, the ceiling, the shelves, and then, I love you so much, I hate you. We stare at each other across the kitchen. I know what he means. I love you so much, I hate you too. So this poem, actually, I teach poetry in jails and prisons, and this came out of a situation at the Santa Cruz County Jails. They developed this program called the Code 4 program, and typically when I teach in the jail, I'm escorted in to a classroom, and then the participants are brought from their cell block to the classroom, dropped off with me, and we have our class. And then when the class is over, I push this little button, and the correctional officers come back, get the men, and escort them back to their cell blocks, and I'm escorted out of the prison, or the jail. That's typically the way it works. But in this particular situation, the county developed this program to they identified a group of men who were soon to be released back into our community and just bathed them in support services. So they were given yoga classes, anger management classes, financial classes, parenting classes, all the things you need to be able to succeed once you're reintegrated into the community. And they asked me if I'd be willing to teach a poetry workshop as part of that program. And I said, of course, because what more do you need than poetry to be able to successfully live in life, right? But the workshops took place, all of them took place right in the cell block. So I was escorted in by a correctional officer into the cell block where the men were actually living. And we would all gather around a table, and the correctional officer would sit in with me because he wasn't going to leave me alone in there. I don't know why. But then, he would have to write with us too, because I said, if you're going to be in here, you have to write, because it's just weird to have somebody staring at us while we're writing. And he did, and it was quite beautiful and wonderful. Anyway, this poem came out of that experience. It's called Growing Apples in the County Jail. There is big excitement in C Block today. On the windowsill, in a plastic ice cream cup, a little plant is growing. This is all the men want to talk about. How an apple seed germinated in a crack of damp concrete. How they tore open tea bags to collect the leaves, bleached them in water, then laid the sprout onto the bed made of Lipton. How this finger of spring dug one delicate root down into the dark fannings, and now 2 small sleeves of green are pushing out from the emerging tip. The men are tipsy with this miracle. Each morning, one by one, they go to the window and check the progress of the struggling plant. All through the day they return to stand over the seedling and whisper. Thank you. How am I doing on time?
10 minutes.
Oh, wow. Power through a few more. I'll do another jail poem. Baby facing the wrong way at the county jail. A woman enters the waiting room carrying a baby strapped into a car seat. She sets him down so he is facing me. Tucked under a heavy blanket, all I can see is the round disc of his face. Behind his pacifier, the edges of his mouth flicker. I know he's smiling because of the pleats around his eyes. I smile back, and he smiles bigger. He's a happy baby. How old is he? I ask the woman who is reading a magazine and seems to have forgotten the baby at my feet. She looks up, and I watch her mind chew through my question. 7 months, maybe, or 8, she says. Then adds, he isn't my baby. So whose baby are you, I wonder? I work for the state. I bring him here to visit his father, the woman says, as the baby continues to smile. At the metal detector, the linoleum, the folding chairs, the fluorescent lights shining on everything ugly in that room. So let's see if I can find this poem. This is what happens to us poets when we go to the DMV, right? We get a poem out of it. It's called How Are We Doing? The man working window 11 at the DMV wears a happy face pinned to his name tag as if he's hosting a social event. But even from here, 3 people back, I can see Frank is having a bad day. He keeps tapping the same key, hoping the computer will do something different. Poor Frank, tapping harder and harder, pausing sometimes to stare owl-eyed at a young woman waving her paperwork as if she's trying to reignite a dying fire. Her pretty face has grown ugly in anger. She smacks the counter, demanding to know the problem. Roused from her desk, a grenade-shaped woman drifts over to hover above Frank. She gives him directions in a tight managerial voice so unmusical, you'd call it noise, while Frank continues to tap and tap until she commandeers the keyboard, fixes the issue, and walks off, leaving the stamping and stapling to Frank, who hustles with a deference that hurts to watch. Meanwhile, the man in front of me has given up and huffed out of the building. But Frank, I want to lean over the counter into your small, personal space and straighten your reading glasses that have gone askew. Their broken frames hang cockeyed off the thin bridge of your nose like pipe cleaners in a preschool project. I want to batten down that piece of your hair sticking up, except I'm still in a line that isn't moving, and I fear the office will close before I've had a chance to tell you how sorry I am that life has brought you here to this place where all these people unwind like a frayed rope into the unhappy well of your workdays. But finally, it's my turn, Frank, to look you in the eyes and ask you to process my papers. How hard is it really to notice the way you bunch one corner of your mouth into a half smile or blink at the mention of your name, a name I have carried in my heart for all of these 20 minutes. So when you hand me back my temporary license, along with a form that asks, "How are we doing?" I want to believe there is someone watching over us to whom I can respond, "Please, we're not doing well here. The doors to the building have been locked. The office is empty. We are lonely and hurting, and night has just begun." So I'm going to close up with 2 more poems. This is Why I Tie My Hair to Trees. Thick black handfuls gathered from the comb. I carry the nest of it outside to drape on a low-hanging branch of the oak. Later, when I look, it's gone, carried off by wind or birds. I like to imagine it as home for song sparrows. The strands woven into the twigs and leaves are collected by the wood rats, along with cobwebs and cloth and buried in the woodpile. A piece of me nestled into the lives of these creatures. Or maybe blown into the trees, tangled in the lacy crown of the hemlock. At night, when the outlines of familiar objects run into the dark, I like to think there is a part of me that isn't afraid. One slender curl shining in the moonlight. So I'm going to close with a poem that is not in that collection, a little bit more timely. It's called After. I don't write a lot of political poems, but this is as close as I get. And I feel like current times warrant. We're all writing political poems now. I've turned off the TV and radio, bookmarked links to recipes and crossword puzzles. I'm finding a way not to know what is happening. If the earth shakes, I'll embrace it. If the heavens open, I'll welcome the downpour. The rain knows how to carve its stories into the mud. The redwoods bloat before gifting rivers back to the sky. I don't need to know if men are shaking each other's hands for the cameras. I don't need to know the names of the women doing their dirty work. If the children are face up or face down in the photograph, they are still dead. The seeds of native weeds in my yard wait to be scattered. Bones plowed under won't ever dance. In time, more bones will join them. I don't need to hear what a man said at a rally. Soon enough, the floods will wash his name from the dirt. The days will change colors. History can race me to the grave. My children will bury me. The sky will not grieve. Thank you very much.